No, you
almost
weren't
put my
doing
hand
that.
on the door, but I didn't. And then you just keep walking, and you're like, no, I said I'm done. I said I'm done. And so I'm like, God, you're so toxic, bro.
Yeah.
And I said, bro,
So
and I
toxic,
never.
bro, was the quote.
Yeah. To her face, I said, you're toxic. You're so toxic. Bro.
This is the Nat and Rose Show.
The Nat and Rose Show.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey.
What up, what up?
We back.
Round 2, baby.
We got some drinks.
We got drinks today.
Yeah. I'm drinking margarita.
I can't say it because I think there's copyright issues. with what
Oh,
I'm drinking.
yeah. That's true.
I'm drinking beer of no specific brand.
Copyright issues as if we're being sponsored for anything right now.
I don't know, dude. They might sue us for all we're worth just for
Yeah,
not.
who knows? Well,
Getting
the
the
joke would be
rights.
on them, you know.
That's true.
Be like, what do you want?
They'd be in trouble at that
Yeah.
point. What up? How you been? Been good?
Good. Yeah.
how you been.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about my least favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
Confrontation.
You really hate
Conflict.
conflict. I
Yeah.
think of any kind. Also, just to go ahead and start by pissing you off.
Sure, let's do that.
You made the lights in the shape of Texas. Just look. Let's get up to show. Look at this. You made it in the shape. I think it's in your blood.
Already?
Yeah, you just
Dang it, dude.
You might as well just get the Texas outline on your forearm.
Again, without naming names, I'm drinking Colorado Kool-Aid then.
Yeah.
Just to make up for that nonsense.
But we are discussing conflict today.
Conflict.
And that's why we need a drink, I think. 'Cause
Conflict and confrontation. So, in the heart of talking about conflict,
yeah.
what did I do? Or am
No,
I
you're
supposed to
gonna
guess?
guess.
I gotta guess what I did. Okay.
I think you should guess what you think you did to piss me off. Let's just do within the last couple weeks, because
Couple
there's
weeks.
always something.
That was
But,
something. Probably could have done the last couple hours and we'd have something.
Yeah.
I think what I did to piss you off, it's going to be hard to guess because you never make it clear,
Yeah.
was earlier this week. It's the most recent one I could think of, honestly. So it's fresh in my mind. Is I was not as affectionate as how you perceive that I typically am. And that starts in the mornings. And then you say that it continues on throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then you think I'm being a type of way. And then you get, you withdraw because you don't want to get hurt. And so then we just kind of, slowly separate throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's very true.
Until either you get fed up enough to be like, the F's wrong with you, dude? Or I'm like, I'm pretty sure she thinks I'm mad, so I should try to do something to show that I'm not.
Yeah.
that always
I just
pisses
think,
you off.
yes, it does. But, you would think that as many times as I've told you, hey, could you just not act, weird and distant to me,
Yeah.
that you would, fix it, but
No.
then you continue to act weird and distant.
Of course.
So. Because literally sometimes you're like, I love you so much. And then, for, days straight, you'll just be like, oh, I love you. You're the best thing ever. Don't leave me. Come
But that's
cuddle with me.
because I
Come
know
do
that's
this.
what you want.
And then,
Whereas,
no.
yes, in most of my, in how I am, how I exist naturally, is, for the most part, just very, I don't say good morning to people. I don't say good night to people.
Yeah. We even have Auntie Linda in town with
Yeah.
us, Nate's aunt. And I think she picks up on it.
She might.
Well, she'll tell us when she listens to this episode.
Yeah, she'll
But I
tell
think
us
she
right
picks
away.
up on it because she, will... she'll look at me when you come downstairs and
Really?
you'll walk by everybody and you just walk by and we're both
Yeah.
there waiting for love
Yeah.
and she's like,
I don't know
she
why.
peeks over at me and she's like, good morning, Nate. And you're like, hey. And then she's like, so we'll have
See,
to
once I hear a good morning or someone, and it's not, because it sounds bad. It sounds like I'm waiting for people to address me. I'm not waiting for people to address me. It's just I don't think about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would personally prefer, I don't know if anybody remembers or would agree, but all of my senior high school year, I was just, people probably thought I was going to do harm to the school, which I never was.
Oh my God, that's not okay to say.
It's all right. But that's what I looked like because I was just like hoodie, headphones in underneath the hoodie so teachers wouldn't get mad at me. And I was just like, no one.
I guess interact. If you went to high school with us senior year.
You could tell me or
yeah, not. You can write us and let us know.
Like I didn't. So I don't know. That's just how I've been. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are correct about that.
Nailed it.
You are correct about that. But see, like, okay, so now it's my turn to
guess what I might have been pissed off about.
But see, it's kind of funny because I feel like how I pissed you off was by thinking that you were mad.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. That is exactly
But that's not fair.
It's not fair. But
it's just, we just do this several times a month. Or not a month, sorry. Several times, at least once a month, I think.
At least.
You wake up, or like, I perceive that you're like some type of way. Which you've admitted that you are, though.
Sometimes, but sometimes I do feel something and I'm trying to process like what I'm going through. And this sucks because like how are you supposed to know which one it is? I don't know. But for the most part it's just like I'm not being, the only thing I am is not extra loving, which is what you think I usually am, like naturally existent, but I don't really. I
just think like I don't need you to be extra loving, and like also, well, as a side note, we're going to do an episode about this. But, like, right now we're focused on the conflict because this is an also interesting thing. But
we'll have to come back to that in a later day.
But, like, I
don't
need
you to Tell us if you want us to come back to that. Yeah. We can come back to it.
I don't need you to be extra loving. I just think, like, you go so far from, like, so loving to, like, do you even exist? Like, you act like I don't exist in the household. And I'm like, hello, like, I'm here. Like, it could just be the littlest thing that you could do. Because I'm telling you, you go, like, you exist in, what is it saying? Only a Sith.
Absolutes?
Operates in absolutes. And I've told you before, you're a Sith.
You have tried to convince me of that.
Because that's how you are. You're either going to be so loving and so, like, love that. Or you're going to be like, who are you? I don't want you.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I'm not a Sith.
But then I would say that.
But maybe I'm turning into a Sith. That's where I'm at on my journey.
You're breaking my heart.
You are my brother, Anakin.
But I was gonna say the other thing that pissed you off, which was funny, like kind of a more lighthearted one, was when I came home from girls' night.
Oh, dude. That was garbage. First off.
I don't understand how it was garbage for me to clean up the kitchen.
Okay.
Gaslighting.
Well, first off, here's what happened is you get back from being out. Fantastic. Listen to our last episode. Do you, boo-boo. Yeah. You get back. Me and Auntie are watching a movie.
Yeah.
And nothing else. You just come in and all I hear is dishes. Ting, 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 ting. The water goes on. And it went from, and our TV is not very loud. We need speakers, so it's hard to hear anyways. We have it all the way up to like 80 just to barely hear it to begin with. And then you step into the house, we acknowledge you, we say hi, and then seconds after, it's just noise in the background covering up like the main part of this movie that we're about to finish. And I'm just sitting there like trying to ignore it, trying to watch the movie, feeling myself strained to hear it, and then I'm finally just like,
a movie that you've also seen like
what are you doing?
1,000,000 times, but that's okay. But also,
but I was thinking of Auntie in that moment.
I know,
because if I can't hear, which it doesn't prove, she probably has better hearing than I do because my hearing is terrible.
Again, because of the headphones in high school.
Yeah, headphones in high school. But so my thought was like, dang, if I can't hear, Auntie probably can't hear either.
Yeah.
Stop. So.
I was just like, I was honestly like low key, maybe it wasn't low key, but I was like, what was he doing? Like, I've been gone for 5 hours. 5 hours. I have just like worked.
So you were being loud on purpose?
No, I really wasn't trying to be loud on purpose, but I was like, as soon as I walked in, and I mean, that kitchen was a mess. It's not like there was just like dishes in the sink. Like, Auntie made chili. Yeah. So it was like pots and cornbread pan, and like there was crumbs everywhere. Like, all of the girls' dishes, multiple spoons, like, and it was just all over the counters. Yeah. And I had been out for like 5 hours and had like gotten off of work and immediately went out with the girls. Right. And I like didn't expect, I guess, to come home. And like we go in through our garage, you know, which enters into our kitchen. So when I immediately walked in, I was just hit with like pots, pans, like, you know, like dun, dun, dun. like everywhere. Yeah.
Zooming in on everything.
Yeah. And I was like immediately struck with like, it is a mess. And so I thought like, okay, I'm just going to go sit down. But then what's going to happen is that Auntie's going to come clean it up.
Right.
And she cooked dinner.
Yeah.
And like, you're enthralled with this movie, so you're not even going to think about cleaning it.
Right. I was going to do it after the movie.
Yeah.
Like, because she was going to do the dishes. She always takes the dishes,
Yeah,
even though we try. That. And she scares me when I try to do the dishes. I'm just kidding. But she usually takes the dishes. And so it was just, I was like, we're going to watch this movie. Then we have to stop to get the girls up in bed anyways. And then after we're done with the movie, I was going to clean the kitchen and do all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I walk in and I see the messy kitchen and I'm like, okay. Initially, I'm like, I'm so mad. Like, why didn't he take care of this before sitting down to watch the movie? Like, that's something that, like, just take care of that first. But then I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I know that you get caught up with the girls, and like then like Auntie wants to watch it, and it was like,
we had watched one before that. And then the other thing is like you're getting back. I don't know if you're gonna do ice cream, like if there's gonna be more mess made.
Yeah.
And unless I'm cooking and cleaning up my mess as I cook, it feels pointless to like come in, clean up, go sit back down, see that somebody goes in and makes more of a mess, and then I go back and clean it up. I'd rather just wait. Give me all the mess. I can fix it.
I just thought, like, I'm going to clean this up right now before Auntie can get to it, and Nate won't even, like, think about it really in time, and I'll feel bad, so I got to clean this up. But I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I just get in from this, and this isn't taken care of. But I really wasn't trying to be loud. I thought I was, like, being quiet enough, and then you just, like, paused the movie and looked over at me from our living room.
Yeah.
It was just, like... I could tell you were, like, joking with me about it.
Stop?
Like, are you kidding me? But I could tell you were, like, that is so rude when people are watching a movie to come in here and clean up your kitchen. Not that it was rude.
It was
that
just,
I didn't
not
clean
even that. It wasn't that it was rude. It was just, like, in my mind, it was just chaos in the kitchen as soon as you stepped in through the door. And I'm just sitting there.
That's how
like,
I felt.
Out of control. Yeah, we both felt the same way.
Look at us.
Look at us.
Bunch of jackasses.
Bunch of a-holes. That's funny.
But, so, all of that to be said that we're going to talk about conflict. Confrontation. Because dun, dun, dun. I think last episode we talked about something that I worked on that really helped us grow our relationship, and that was loving each other through freedom. And really how that has just had like such a positive effect on that. And so when we started thinking about what we could do next, you had said, let's do something that I've really had to grow in our relationship. And that was this idea of like conflict, confrontation. Yeah. So we looked up on the ever reliable Google.
The internets that never gives you the false.
Yeah, never lies.
Never lies.
We looked up the difference between conflict and confrontation. And so what it said was that conflict is a disagreement, a clash or a disagreement between two parties. And then confrontation is just like a challenging, like I'm addressing you with, and it's usually face to face. So I think that's an interesting distinction because I think this is what we ran into a lot. Yeah. You know, in our marriage, even like I feel like we still have not mastered this by any means.
Not at all. I do terrible with it. Yeah. Most of the time I am still trying to balance and remember what I think I figured out you know, a year ago, which I didn't. But
so it would be something of like I would bring something to your attention and be like, hey, Nat, like, just so you know, well, first of all, let's be clear. I did not do it well like this every single time. But
not even close, dude. Not even close.
But I would be like, hey, like this and this, I don't like this. Yeah. And, like almost, I think immediately you would be like, what? Like, well, okay, first, like in the beginning of our marriage, you'd be like, okay, sorry.
For sure.
And like, that would be it.
Yeah. What's weird is, I don't know if this is jumping around too much, but like while we were dating, I handled conflict, I think, better and confrontation better than when we got married. Once we got married is when I started doing the whole, like you would bring something up to me and I would say, sorry. Yeah. You're right. I'm sorry. I'll fix it.
Sorry.
And you would leave and like that went on for a while. Yeah. And eventually I did it one time or something and you were like, stop. Like, you have more to say or you were it was something like that to where you were addressing me like, no, you're not sorry because you keep doing it, or you're not sorry and you're not even listening. Like, did you even hear what I said?
Yeah, what I said to you
for?
at one point was like, are you really sorry? Because essentially you're just lying to me right now, like to my face, saying that like you're sorry for this thing that you don't even understand, like what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah.
And so it just turned into like, I think you are just like very much so like.
Yeah, I just was trying to avoid the conflict. Like, confrontation in my mind was like, all right, yeah, confrontation obviously has to happen. If I'm doing something wrong, you got to tell me. And my attempt was, because I always had a reason. I had an excuse. I had sometimes not just an excuse, but like a valid reason for my actions that made you upset. That when you would present what I did wrong, I would be like, that's not how it happened. Or like in my mind, I'm like, this is half the story. This is not even, or it's not even half. It's less than half because it's your perceived half of the thing in that moment. Not that we're at that now, but so like it felt like ridiculous. But I was like, okay, no conflict, don't fight, don't get mad, don't get upset. So I would just say sorry, just so that way it'd be like, oh yeah, sorry, all right, and then that way it would go away. And I feel like I accomplished my goal, which was no conflict. I don't get upset. I don't lose my cool and have all the more general male emotion of just anger. Honestly, it's the only one we ever really show.
Yeah.
Which we show it often, but that's besides the point.
Men are emotional too, everybody. They just show anger as
we just
emotion.
have one emotion, but we're emotional with it. But yeah, so like I accomplished that. I didn't get angry. I didn't get mad. I didn't say anything I regretted. And you got to say what I was doing to bug you. Right. And I genuinely would try. Like in my mind, I'd be like, okay, I'll try to do that. But also the other side of my mind was like, I don't think I should have to try to do that because that's not what happened. So it never really worked.
Right.
And then I think we evolved to me then just kind of like fighting back and not even apologizing anymore. And
yeah, you reached a point, and I think this just like proves that you can only avoid conflict for so long because after like so many years of you just being like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. That's fine. I'm sorry, you know? Right. And like me thinking like, okay, that's fine. You know, like he'll try better and genuinely not trying to be the person that is like, are you even really sorry? Or like, I hated that. So I didn't want to like do that. Right. But after.
Which caused the perfect storm of it lasting for as long as it did.
Yeah. Because like after so many years, you finally just kind of got fed up of, I think, not being understood and like feeling like your intentions and your point of view wasn't being seen. Yeah. And so we ended up having like bigger conflicts that didn't even need to happen if we would have just like probably addressed it, you know, and gotten good at this sooner. Which we're still not very good at it, but
we're not terrible at it.
We're not terrible.
We're not the worst at it. Yeah, and I think that was just the natural progression, and that's what I think happens in most people's minds is in the attempt to avoid conflict, you just build it up bigger, and it has to come out eventually because we're different people. We have different minds, we have different everything, and this isn't news to anybody. And if it is, you know, welcome to Earth, from wherever planet you came from. But like, we are just different, and it doesn't matter how similar you are, how many things you like and see together, there will always be something different. And so conflict is, and this was revelations to me, and whatever that is probably pretty sad, but like conflict is inevitable. Yeah. You can't avoid conflict. And the idea of fighting and having to go back and forth of like, well, this is how I think and this is how you think, and like all that stuff, like that's what I always tried to avoid and tried my best to not let happen. So it would be I did something. Okay, I have a bunch of my own opinions on this matter, but avoid conflict at all cost. I'm sorry. And then it went from that to now I'm like, God, like you don't, and we keep having confrontation, which starts to feel like conflict because I have all of my own battles for what you're telling me in my head. And so then I'm like, all right, well, now I got to get her to stop confronting me with stuff because that's like, I'm still conflicted, if you will, in my mind. So now I'm like, okay, well, let me just try to explain where I'm coming from so she'll stop bringing this stuff up. Yeah. And that doesn't work, obviously. Stop pestering me. Just leave me alone, dude.
I'm trying. I'm fighting for my life.
And it was recent, for sure, in the past couple of years, through disagreements with outside external relationships, not even between us.
Yeah.
Where we're talking as we always do, and you were saying like, when I have conflict or when I think of conflict, it's for a purpose and it's for a benefit. And that was like the first thing that it finally,
clicked.
it made sense. And I was agreeing with you for one of like, that makes sense. And at that point it was like, dang, I suck at conflict. I suck at confrontation. I need to work on.
Because for me, like, I, have mentioned very briefly on here and will mention as we go forward, but, like, for me, I always saw conflict as, like, big blow-ups in my life. Like, huge things that, like, screaming matches, sometimes physical, you know, and so...
With no resolution afterwards,
with no resolution, like, it just... And conflict often led to people leaving.
Yeah,
and like
the end of a...
being gone, And so, like, and it's interesting because I feel like a lot of the time if you see that, you'll go towards, like, let's not have conflict, you know?
Right.
But I think, like, for me, whatever happened, like, it was ingrained in me of, like, let's just resolve that problem.
Right.
And then not have these, like, knockdown, drag out issues, you know?
You're also inclined to wanting all the smoke. All the time. So, whatever that is.
Yeah, and you just think I'm like a troublemaker. You're just like, why bring this up? Why even say that? Like, even with outside relationships, and that's when it mostly happens. Because
even at the restaurant earlier today, the waiter was mediocre at best, if even that, starting off. And you were like, I'm gonna say something, and I was like, why say something? Like, is it actually going to help and benefit the situation?
I feel like this needs clarifying because it takes a lot for me to feel a type of way about wait staff.
For sure.
Know, like, because, like, I've been in the restaurant business before. I've been in many different businesses. So I'm not just out here trying to be like, that was terrible service, like a boomer, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm also like, okay, and... like, just so much going on in my head of, like, this guy approaches, barely says 2 words to us, and he's like, what do you want to drink?
Yeah, like, we were almost having to guess what he needed to know from us. Yeah, he's,
like, standing there, and we're like...
Like, do you want a drink order? Like, what do you want from us, dude? And for real, like, it was weird. He walked up, he said hi. We responded. We're like, hey, how's it going? And he just stood there.
Yeah.
And kind of didn't say anything.
It was weird.
And we were waiting for a while.
And
like,
that happened twice.
Long. Yeah.
So then, like, after he left the second time, I was like, I'm honestly about to say something because, like in the, like, art of not giving, you know, is, like, I kind of don't care if this, like, bothers you because I'm here to have a nice lunch. And if you're not going to provide me a nice lunch... go away. Give me something else. Because, like, I'm not trying to do this. But, yes, you're right. Like, I get that. But you're always, like, so... Like, he just lives in this realm of, like, don't do it. Don't say anything.
And I thought going into marriage, to go back to marriage, I thought going into it that I could maintain that, like, I'll take everything on the chin. I'll take it on the chin. I'll say sorry. I'll change me. I'll fix whatever I'm doing, and I'll be fine with that. And... to not avoid your feelings and to not ignore them or like discount them or anything was my intention. And so I thought I could take it all on the chin. And then, fast forward year 2, honestly, of marriage, I'm like, all right, 365 days of just taking it on the chin. That's an exaggeration. Not that we had something every day, but essentially a whole year of whatever things came up, just taking it on the chin, saying, okay, yes, I'll do better. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll fix it. And still having my own thoughts about those matters, that's when I think it was like, all right, time to switch up the tactic because this isn't working. I'm not avoiding conflict. I still feel very upset and angry.
Right, yeah.
And so then I moved on.
And I guess, like, as a question for you, like, where do you think that comes from? Like, where do you think your, like, aversion to conflict at all comes from? Because, and you even try to avoid it, I mean, like, with bosses, coworkers, friendships, family members, like, the list goes on.
Everything.
Like, even if it's at detriment to you, I've seen, what I feel are, like, injustices done to you, you know? Yeah. And because, like you said, I'm always down for the smoke. Yeah. like I watch it and I'm like, why wouldn't you say anything?
Yeah.
And you're just like, whatever, I don't care. Like, where does that come from for you? Because, like, I'm just so opposite of that. So
I think it comes from, personally, a lot of places. Some of it, I think, might be general to the male species. Might be general to men. But I don't know for sure, obviously. If no one knew, I'm not a doctor, so I haven't studied. But so one aspect of it is I've seen myself react to conflict, and it's gotten out of hand very quickly in scenarios where it shouldn't have, in scenarios like it I didn't have, and I still probably don't have self-control enough to not allow that emotion of anger to spiral out of control. And I'm sure it's not as bad as some people, but like it's enough that it was like, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
And so part of it is, I'm not sure where that line is. I'm not sure at what point I'll get to, yelling and just losing my cool that I don't ever want to do. So that's one aversion to it. I don't know, maybe just seeing like growing up how conflict happened and its outcome didn't really seem all that beneficial. It would turn into silence mostly. It would turn into like a lack of resolution for sure. It just didn't seem like it got resolved, and it would eventually, but as a kid you're seeing things so just in the moment, and you're not really seeing the drawn out process of it. And so like to me, the loud stuff, the squeaky wheel is what always got my ear, is what I always got my attention. And so like that's all I really focused on. So I don't know, it's probably a mixture, a delicious cocktail of a lot of nonsense.
Cocktail of toxicity.
But I think those are
maybe
the main
that's
things.
what we're gonna name this episode.
Cocktail of toxicity.
Cocktail of conflict.
Conflict cocktail.
Dang, we got it.
That was pretty good. But yeah, I think it's probably those two things. My own insecurity of like where I'll go with anger, and if what the conflict being brought to me, I get out of hand, and then just seeing it not really seem like it was ever beneficial. So,
right. Yeah.
I don't know how accurate those are.
Yeah. No, that's good.
My own thoughts, but
I think it was something that like we weren't aware how different we were going into marriage, of how we handle like conflict resolution, that kind of thing. Because obviously like marriage is just a whole different ball game when you have to work out the issues, because I was just, and I really do go into like almost a panic mode if like things feel unresolved or unsettled, or just like I don't feel like you've expressed yourself enough, or I haven't expressed myself fully. Like I really just do go into like peril, like this is the end. Like he hasn't expressed, he didn't tell me everything he wanted to, I didn't say everything I wanted to, so it's just gonna turn into like something terrible. And I go into full on like worst. I really do.
Do you think with conflict there's I feel like you do think, but so I guess I'll ask it this way. What is bad conflict?
Yeah. I think we can get like the obvious ones out of the way. Like obviously any type of, like I would say any, and I mean any type of physicality involved in the conflict, like that would involve like, holes in walls.
Throwing an empty water bottle at a wall.
We're going to talk about that later. Okay. But yes, like holes in walls, that type of stuff that is like a lot of people kind of tend to excuse of, well,
as long as it wasn't on them, it was all right.
Mm-hmm. There's always an escalation to that, so.
What about words, language, tone?
Yeah.
Do you think that needs to be?
I think.
Is there a bad level to that?
I think it does. It is bad if you are in bad conflict if y'all have reached the point that you're like cussing at each other, which we definitely have. Yeah. I most of the time started. I know, sorry, and you're like, well, I can't even talk to you if you're gonna cuss at me. Yeah. And like, I don't know, my mind just goes there. I'm just like, well, you're a jackass. So, and I think just in general, like when you look at like debaters or, things like that, as soon as somebody starts like name calling
Right.
and everything, they've lost the argument.
Yeah.
So even without like profanity,
Right.
like I could just be calling you a poo-poo head, and that's like the same level.
Liar,
of-
you're crazy and all that stuff.
So like I think name calling, insults, cussing, physicality for sure. Like
Yeah.
all of those are bad conflicts. And do you remember we read that what was that, like Fierce Marriage? Right? We went through that 3 years into our marriage.
Yeah.
And they said to write out like a contract for conflict. Do you remember that?
I vaguely remember that. It
Yeah.
was one of the challenges.
One of the
right?
challenges.
It was like a 30-day challenge or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I feel like I do recommend this book if you guys like want something to read.
Yeah.
It's called Fierce Marriage, and then it comes with I forgot what they called
They
their
sell
like
them
challenge.
separately, but it was essentially two
Yeah.
books. One was a set of challenges for the wife to do for her husband, and the other was a set of challenges for the husband to do for the wife.
And then there's like the actual book that you're supposed to kind of read
We'll
together.
put it in
The show notes.
or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, it's
That's
great. I
pretty
don't
good.
even remember the authors, but they were really good.
They
It
were
was great.
awesome. And just like simple, it's like 30 days that you have
Yeah.
one challenge each day that you both do, whatever. But one of the challenges was that you sit down and you make a conflict contract.
Yeah.
And so that was fun, which we've broken several times.
Several times.
We should maybe do it again.
We should probably rewrite that contract.
But I think that was cool because it was like, okay, here's our guidelines for conflict. Like,
Yeah.
here is what our, absolute, like, let's not cross
Yeah.
these lines. And I remember what I put for you was no sarcasm.
That I couldn't have sarcasm.
Yes, because
Yeah.
that's what you do.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, so then I guess I'm just like the worst ever then, huh? But I'm the worst ever. You're right. You're right. I'm the worst ever. Okay, no. You're right.
I am very bad with sarcasm.
Or like at least you were doing that. I think you've come away, but
I think that's been the problem in like all of my conflicts with people is eventually my sarcasm was too much, and eventually it was probably like the first time I was sarcastic was too much, because Sam said growing up that's what he hated about me.
Yeah.
As a brother, he was like
Yeah.
he was always sarcastic and all that stuff, and then it led on to marriage. Yeah, we'll have to revisit that and
Yeah.
try to come up with something to make it better for sure.
what do you feel like when I've like gone to you
Yeah.
and been like, this is my issue,
Yeah.
because I know you've used the term several times of like, well, I guess I can just never do anything right. You
Yeah.
haven't done it a lot recently because
Right.
I did tell
I
you.
did go there a lot though.
I did tell you like, that's like gaslighting me.
Yeah.
I know gaslighting's like the
So we're gonna get 1,000 views because we used the
hot
word.
button word of the day.
Everyone's
but-
gonna love this. I'm like
Yeah.
gaslighting. Now I got it.
Yeah. But like what is the thought process that runs through your mind whenever you are like confronted and it hasn't turned to conflict yet?
Initially, it depends. I think for me, it's a lot of it goes to, and this isn't right. I'm not saying that this is how it should be, but like my thought is this accurate? First off, like is where you're coming from, where I was actually coming from, and then at the point that it's not, that's when I feel like I usually get most upset.
Yeah.
And then it leads to conflict. Whereas when I've done something, like if I step on your foot and you're like, ow, you stepped on my foot, you confront me with that pain. I'm not like, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
You should get over that. Like, no, I'm a heavy dude. If I step on your foot, I understand that is painful, that hurts. Or even like we've been messing around sometimes and I've accidentally like hit you or something. There was something the other day where I was like swinging the girls around or something, and it hit you pretty hard, and you were upset.
Her foot flew across my face.
Was that what it was?
It was like,
It's like obviously it hurt. There's no other way.
Yeah.
And so those things and in the emotional things like that too.
Yeah.
Those are just the only examples I could think of that it's fine. Like okay, the confrontation worked. I'm sorry, like we can work past that and we can move through it. I truly listened. It was all that stuff. But it's when I disagree with the what it's coming from that then I'm like, that's when my mind goes into no, and that's when I
Right.
can't take it and I get upset mostly.
yeah.
And then my mind's trying to battle the like, don't go to conflict bad, avoid it, stay out of it.
Yeah.
And so then I'm trying to do different things. That's why I get sarcastic. That's why I just get quiet. That's why I do all these different things, because I'm trying to avoid the conflict part by all means. And that's, that's what's wrong. So in confrontation, I don't think there's an exact way. I think
I was going to ask you, because you have told me different things of like when I've approached it poorly.
And I thought they would work.
You've said, well, this is how you should do that going forward. Because, we can all take accountability for like the part that we play in something, And so in confronting you, you're like, well, I think this would have a better impact on, and honestly, you've told me with like other people that you've seen me interact with too, you're like, that was not good.
I don't think you all got your point across.
Yeah. And so you're like, well, here's how it would be good for like me. If you approach me like this, like I think I'll receive it better. And sometimes you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just when you have done those things, I genuinely thought it would work. And then you came around and did it. And then later on, you're like, but I did what you said. And I was like, yeah, you did. And it didn't work. I don't know, dude.
Maybe just don't confront me.
Yeah, because confrontation in my mind always equaled conflict.
Yeah.
And that's why I tried to avoid both. But so I think with confrontation, I don't have, you may have something, but like I more so have steps to try and help it go smoother.
Well, what are they? Well, let's hear them.
First one I think is take a beat, like take a second, think about why you're upset.
Yeah.
And be able to present that as unemotionally as possible. And I think it goes both ways. I think for the most part, the male mind, generally speaking, is like no emotion. Like if you give me emotion, my emotion comes out, which is anger, and that's all I have. Yeah. And so like try to get down to what the problem actually is, so it's not just this free fire of 1,000 different things that I've done wrong to get to the point of like, well, you aren't understanding what I'm saying,
And I think that's very like, that might be the most important point of that, of like, you've seen me interact with other people where I've just been like, okay, you're doing this thing and that's like annoying, and then when like once I'm able to like talk it out, I get down to like the root of it, which is like, well, you were being very inconsiderate to me, like that's ultimately what I felt.
But it's been after hours,
after like a whole big thing,
yelling and a bunch of other things that aren't the point, and then it comes all around and it finally like levels out and settles, and it's like, oh no, this is what I was feeling. I was feeling,
and you're like,
so it's like, what? We've argued about 1,000 different points along this way, and like I could have understood that from the beginning and been like, I'm sorry. And like I said, that doesn't mean it's presented like that, and there's absolutely no anger and bad conflict. It just, I think that's the first step. I think that is the most important,
because I've learned, like, as being somebody who can just be like, boom, 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 let's talk about it, and like, I'm good.
And like, you feel something and you're just like, this is what I felt.
Fix it. Of being able to really like narrow down, like, okay, this action led me to this feeling. Why? Like, why did that happen? And like, what is the resolution behind this? Like, it may not even be, it's something you have to change, but like, I need to verbally express it. Because once I verbally express it, I could, like, sometimes you can be like, okay, when you did this, it made me feel this way. And, like, I know that like, you're not trying to do it. So like, half of it is that I have to realize that, but then half of it is like, if you could help me
do it
also
less.
Like do it less so that I don't have
or even explain that side of it, of like, oh, this is where that comes from, or oh yeah, no, I'm aware that I do that, and that is not how I intend.
There has been like a couple times where I've been like to you, like, I don't like this thing, and you've been like, oh, well, like, that wasn't my intention behind it at all. So, and even like, I'm not going to change it. So just know, like, going forward, I'm not going to change that.
Which is what our last episode was, one of those things that, that's what it was. It was, you had brought to me like, you need to ask. And I was like, oh no, I get that you feel that way, but like, I'm not going to change that because whatever. So that was was a good example of that situation.
Yeah. So
After-
what else is like a bad confrontation?
If that can go well,
Yeah, we almost cover
if
everything.
that's settled, then like I think it would go smoothly on, at least on the person who's confronting side. If that doesn't go well, obviously, ideally you can recover and be like, I see that you're getting upset. I'm sorry. Like, I want to come back to this when we've both settled down and calmed down and have a point, to where we're actually working on it together. And then on the other side of like being confronted, what I always right away do bad is just avoid confrontation, because in my mind, again, confrontation equals conflict and conflict equals bad. And that's what I'm working on changing. That's what I think should be changed in everyone's mind, is confrontation can equal conflict. Doesn't necessarily always have to, but conflict definitely does not equal bad.
Right.
It in and of itself, it's not a terrible thing. It's a great thing.
And I think, like, kind of to put a biblical plug in here is that, like, even the Lord, doesn't think it's bad and has, like, steps for us to handle that, but, like, I think demonstrates that, like, feelings and conflict and, like, strife with a brother or sister in Christ needs to be dealt with. And he's like, I don't want your offering until you go and deal with that. Yeah. Go deal with that, and then you come back to me.
Right. He shows that he's pro conflict. He's like, let's have conflict. Let's have confrontation. Let's have these discussions and these acts of truly getting to know each other and getting to work on each other better, or work on yourself to, be better with each other. And obviously those would be the first thing.
Yeah.
But those get messed up often, and emphasis is put on something that it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's a guideline to do it well. It's not a requirement that if you miss this step, you have now sinned against God.
Right.
This is what he has said, like, hey, this will work. This will be beneficial for you. This will help prevent it from turning into violent conflict, if you will.
Yeah.
Like it can
and
stay.
And I think he knows, like,
calm.
Obviously he knows that, like, the enemy has a foothold.
Yeah.
If you allow conflict to be done incorrectly and prolong it too much, then, and we've seen this so many times, know, you're like, somebody does like this little tiny act and you're like, that bothers me. And then it's almost like the enemy can just sneak in there and be like, wasn't that terrible? Don't you think that was the worst ever? Are they the worst? You should just, like, be done with that person, you know? And so, we've definitely seen that happen. And so it's no wonder why there is this, like, very clear, like, biblical guidelines to what the Lord wants us to do.
Right.
In conflict situations.
Yeah.
And I think something that we talk about a lot is plausible deniability.
Yeah.
In conflicts, we love that. We
think it's a great. That's kind of what got us into being better at conflict. I would say that would be like the biggest thing that we were like, all right, we're both gonna run with that because we liked it so much.
Yeah.
And just essentially,
we've told people, we're like, plausible deniability. You need that.
Essentially, the idea is to do everything right, especially on either side. If there's confrontation, do everything right. If someone comes to you with something, don't be the person who now gets mad and then they're like, oh yeah, well, I brought you something and you were yelling at me. Because that was the that was the stuff that bugged me the most in our confrontation. Is you would bring something to me and I would get mad, and then you would be like, well, you started yelling, and it's like, I lost. I already lost, dude. Like I've failed this so bad.
Right.
And so having that to where it's like plausible denial. If I can stay calm, if I can stay cool and get past that first step of not getting angry, like right off the bat, then if something comes down later where I actually have a good point for my side of the conversation, it can't be just thrown back to, well, you were
exactly
being mean,
and I think that's what this concept that I think it's a legal term, I think is where we pulled it from, but like it is just the concept in conflict of like cover your bases essentially, like try your hardest to make sure that, like, if you're the one confronting, that you're confronting in a, like, mature, respectful,
not a condemning
appropriate
way, you're not calling them names when
you're seeking understanding.
You've taken the time to make sure that it was something that isn't just you misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Or especially if it's something that you've already had and they've
Yeah.
explained what they mean by it, and then you're still like, no, I'm gonna take it. Like,
Yeah.
you've done all these steps to make sure that when you bring this thing, they're not gonna be like, oh, well, you did it poorly. You didn't confront me correctly. Like,
Exactly.
Like, what do you mean? I've done, which is what you did. Which is, you were saying earlier of when I had said, well, maybe if you bring it to me like this, I'll feel better. And then you did, and then I would say like, well, you didn't bring it up well, and you're like, well, no, I literally brought it up the way you've told me to bring it up before.
Right.
So it's not that. And it just, that helps obviously get down to what the problem actually is.
Exactly.
And where the heart is and where everyone needs to work on.
Right. So, conflict confessions.
Ooh.
And do like some,
Dun, dun,
they're
dun.
embarrassing. Like my story is very embarrassing. I hate mine. My conflict confession is that when, obviously you know this, but this is for people listening, but like when we were dating, we had gotten into like a really big fight, looked like we were going to break up probably. And like, it was just a very big conflict. And,
I technically did break up.
no, you didn't break up with me.
I did.
No.
I said Egyptian.
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 Old Testament.
You. Old Testament Egyptian you.
Oh my god.
Which in teenage
Yeah.
languages we're done.
Okay, I didn't realize that we
No,
were
I
breaking
didn't.
up during that time, but
I was just, yeah.
anyway, so we had gotten into this really big argument, and I had asked you, like, can we just talk about it? Like, come over or let me come over, because it was over text that you had said, like,
Right.
blah, 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 like, just went off. And I was like, come over or let me come over, and then, like, let's talk about it. And you were like, no, I don't want to see you for, like, 3 weeks. Like, I remember you put a very specific time limit on it. You were like, 3 weeks, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
And I was like, 3 weeks?
Maybe.
Like, what? And I think I told you, like, break up with me then if that's what you're going to do, because I'm not just going to sit here for 3 weeks and, like, wait. Like, if you want to wait 3 weeks, we can just be done, and it's fine, you know? And so it was very, like, unclear to me what we were doing. And so it was, like, 5 days I think I gave you, and we didn't talk. We didn't do anything.
Even 5 days, babe.
It was
like
5 days.
3 days.
No,
maybe.
it wasn't. No.
Yes.
That was on a Sunday.
And you were there on like a Wednesday.
No, I
Yeah.
wasn't. It was a Friday.
Maybe. I don't remember.
You don't remember.
I
You don't
barely
even know what you're talking
remembered
about.
this
You're
morning.
just trying to fight.
I am.
And so-
I'm so down for conflict now, dude.
And so, so I was just like annoyed, and
Yeah.
I needed an answer to like what was going on, you know? So I drove to this like little restaurant that you worked at, and I knew
I
what
had
your
3
shift
hours
was.
before I
No,
was
that
off.
wasn't it. I knew what your shift was, which like you were supposed to get off at like 12 or 1, something like
Maybe.
that. So I got up there at like 11:30 or something, like enough time to like be there so that when you got off, like
I had no choice but to talk to you.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this was unhealthy behavior. I see that now.
Toxic, bro.
This was unhealthy behavior, but as an 18-year-old,
Yeah.
this was the best I had. So,
Yeah, so you get there
So I
at
get
11.
there
It
at, like,
turns out that
11:30.
I was closing the restaurant.
but I didn't
Yeah, you
didn't
didn't
know,
know
because
that.
that like almost never happened. Like
It started like the week before I would close.
that
for
was
them
like
randomly.
such a anomaly that
So
happened.
you sat there for what, 5 hours?
Well, I like go in and I order from you, and I'm like, I get something, and
Yeah.
then
I remember that moment.
you
'cause
had said like, "What are you doing here?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, I want to
I
talk
thought
to
I
you."
wasn't gonna see you. I made it very clear I didn't want to see you.
Yeah.
And then I was making an order, and I turn around because I hear the door open, and there's your dumb face.
You smiled at me so quick though, you couldn't help it. You were like,
Because it was hilarious. It was like, God,
I'm
dude, this
sure.
is so.
"Yeah, this was like stalker
Terrible.
behavior.
Yeah,
this was not
stalker
good."
behavior.
I know. I really, this is embarrassing.
Also, you're adorable, so like I couldn't help but. That's why I couldn't see you for 3 weeks.
because you're like, "I'm gonna love you."
Because if I see your dumb face, I'm like, oh my God, I love her. I love her so much.
So anyways, so I sit down at like 11:30, and then I think you maybe got a little busy, so you were doing stuff, and then you
Yeah.
come over to the table that I just parked myself at.
Yeah.
And
For an hour already at this point.
and you're like, "So my boss just told me that I'm closing today." And I was like, when it's closing? And you were like, 4. So there was like 4 more hours left.
I thought for sure when I told you that,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, most likely I thought, she'll leave. And then I've been saved by having to work longer. And nope.
No.
2 o'clock rolled on. She's still there.
I was just like, well, I felt like it would have been, at the time, I felt like it would have been weirder for me to leave. And, like, then I just embarrassed myself for nothing. Like, I just went and harassed you at your place of business for, like, no reason. Yeah. So I was like, well, I guess I'm in this. And, like, it was just, I just sat there for the extra 3 hours. And then when you got off is, like, when we were able to talk and we worked it out.
We did
like,
talk and work it out.
So, I mean, I think that probably should have shown, like, my resilience for... needing to have the conflict,
Should have known that.
But that was real embarrassing, and that was
funny.
Bad of me to do. But
it was good because look at us now.
Yeah,
we're here. So mine, I don't know. I actually have a couple. One of them's very short. Should I go with the shorter one or the longer one?
I don't know the short one that you're gonna tell. I only knew the one that we talked about. But do both. I don't know. Do the short one first, because it's short.
Well, the short one might not be that great.
Oh.
But I thought of it because I just said it earlier.
The toxic.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was good. Okay, I'll go with that one. So, we are, just this past summer, we're high stressed. We're traveling around a lot. There's a lot going on for both of us. We're both doing things we don't want to in life, essentially. And so we're very stressed. We're having a conversation about it, and I started off fairly good. It was quiet. There was like silence between the two of us, and so we're arguing. Anyways, I separate myself.
Yeah.
As I do, because I'm like, I'm not trying. I don't want to lash out and go too far. So I do separate myself. Exactly. So I separated myself. I went upstairs. I was just on my phone. And shortly, you come in later, and you start bringing up what had started the problem.
Yeah, I don't even remember what that issue was about specifically, but...
Yeah, I don't either. But so then it was one of those moments where I disagreed very strongly and didn't care to understand where you were coming from or try to build. It was just like, you're wrong, I'm gonna prove that you're wrong, and this is annoying. And so we start going back and forth, and I'm making amazing points. Honestly, they were good.
To the point that you convinced me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
and I convinced you, but that's not how it felt in the moment.
I know.
The okay felt like just like a way to get out of talking now because you were losing, and of course I was winning. So I was like, yes,
I just felt like I lost, talk. So it was just over.
I know, but in the moment, I was like, it just felt so wrong that you come up and start something that I don't even want to start anyways. And then I'm like, all right, so we're going back and forth, and then finally you're just like, all right, fine, no, you're fine, all right, I'm done, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And so you start walking out, and I'm like, you came up and talked to me. So I'm like frustrated, and I think I did say that, and so I'm like following you because you're walking out the door. And like, I'm trying to not do anything wrong by like getting physical. Like, so I'm in my mind, I'm trying to guess what to do to like continue the conversation because I didn't think it was resolved. Yeah, I was like, I almost put my hand on the door, but I didn't. And then you just keep walking, and you're like, no, I said I'm done. And so I'm like, God, you're so toxic, bro.
Yeah.
And I said, bro,
so
and I
toxic, bro, was the quote. Yeah.
To her face, I said, you're toxic. You're so toxic, bro. And I thought I mumbled it enough to where you didn't hear.
You said it loud.
And then later, once we did resolve it, we got through it. We were good.
Yeah.
I was like, did you hear me when I said? And you were like, yes.
And I laughed because like I was walking away.
Yeah.
So
and I went back into the room and laughed at what I just said because I was like,
literally
where did that come from?
I got down the stairs and I was like,
yeah, I was sitting.
How embarrassing for
I was sitting on the bed laughing. I was like, I just called
Toxic
her
bro.
my wife, bro. What is happening, dude?
So now we use that as like our catchphrase.
Now it's
basically.
become almost annoying how often I call you bro.
Yeah.
Because of that moment.
Yeah, but we say it to each other like, you're toxic, bro. Like, you're so toxic. It's like
it's
our
been
little...
sketched into our lives
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. So, and I think like the girls even say bro now,
they'll
like
say
a lot.
bro a
Yeah.
lot now.
So
They'll even say that.
that
in
was
the same
one.
way.
That was one conflict confession.
Yeah, that was one. Second one. This one is more so kind of both of us. It wasn't so much me, I don't think. But again,
that's probably good. We did one of each
Yeah.
and then like one together.
so we're going back at it, right? We're back to the races.
Separate time.
Separate time. This was a couple years before. 3 years from now.
This is maybe
before?
3 years ago or so.
2019, right? We're going back and forth. We're upset about something. I'm at my desk working, which is always the first thing, dude. That will always, that'll always put me right at that. Just like, all right, we're battling, because I was busy, and at the time I was very busy with work.
Yeah.
And I was working, and you come in, and you're like, so we're not gonna talk about this, and I'm like, I'm working. No, we're not talking about it. And it's like, ah! And so we're going back and forth. We're yelling.
Yeah, we're yelling.
We're
This was a
getting mad.
good one. This was a good fight.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was about?
Okay, this fight was about that I said we were both extremely busy this summer. Like, I mean,
Oh, was this about helping you?
I
with,
was I was
cleaning
running
and
a
stuff?
business and also had like a part-time job, and
Yeah.
then you were busier than ever with work.
Yeah.
And we had just bought a house. Like, it was just like
Danny
so
Ray
many
was only
things.
like a year old.
Yeah, our youngest was 1, and it was just like so many things. And
Yeah.
so I just really felt like overwhelmed. Like, I couldn't take any more.
Yeah.
Like, things to do. And so like, I think I had told you, like, I need you to do your workouts at like a different time.
Yeah.
Because like, I'm waking up stupid early to get my workout in,
Yeah.
and you sleep your like happy butt
Stupid
in
early, 5:30.
5 o'clock in the morning.
5 in the morning.
You're
dude.
toxic, bro. And so, so I was like telling him, like, it's not fair that I'm waking up at 5 in the morning to get
Yeah.
my workouts in, and you're just like slowly rolling out of bed and getting your workout in like at any point in time when
Right.
like the girls are already awake. And then, and you explained to me like you were staying up till like 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes working. So I guess it wouldn't have been fair to be like,
Yeah.
You
I think
need
that
to
was
wake
another
up,
one of
but-
those moments where once we hashed it out for a while and
Yeah,
got
we-
through it all, we got down to the base of it. Which
we
was
both understood each other's
different.
points,
Yeah.
which was like, oh, okay.
And it wasn't about me waking up
No.
and like not being awake. It was about me not considering you. And,
Yeah, just me feeling like I was in it alone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fighting for my life.
And not appreciating you when you
Yeah.
were doing stuff. And it was,
Yeah, it had deeper
there was a
issues
lot of
as
different
always.
things, but,
But so like this one, we were just like going at it. Like, he had kind of been ignoring me. You had kind of been ignoring
Yeah.
me. And
Kind of. I was working, but yes.
you were using work as an excuse, but okay.
Work was a great excuse.
Whatever. So you were like ignoring me the like whole day, and
Yeah.
it was like 4 o'clock, and I went into your office, and I was like, "What the hell?" I just was like, I genuinely wanted to know, like, do you plan to be in your mood the rest of the night? Because like,
Right.
if so, I was about to just take the girls to Chuck E. Cheese, and we were about to have like a good time or something, So anyways, we got into it. Like, we were just fighting back and forth, yelling, all of that, like,
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah. So fine, and it turned into a lot more than that, obviously, because when it's all over the place, everything comes up.
Yeah, it was
And so
just a mess.
we were very upset with each other, to the point where I'm finally tired because you had said something.
I don't know.
That was finally like the last straw for me. And there was a water bottle. At the time I was dipping.
Yeah.
So there was two. There was my dip cup and then like an empty water bottle. And I remember in the moment I was mad.
Plastic water bottle.
The plastic water bottle. I was mad enough to like but also conscious enough to not throw the dip one, which was closer.
Oh, that would have been terrible.
Because I didn't want it to like bust on the wall and then I'd have to clean it up, or something heavy and it actually like break the wall.
That you
So
would have had to fix later.
I end up throwing this plastic water bottle. She's sitting in front of me here. I throw the water bottle like
Out to the side.
as
like,
far away from her as possible, but I did throw it.
It's not
I
like
went
he
too
threw
far.
it at me.
Yeah.
And that's a very important distinction.
It is
but yes,
important.
any
Either
physical
way,
reaction to
right.
things is
It was
no go, babe.
It was just yeah.
Yeah.
Unnecessary it's just not cool. It's
But,
like,
like,
it's
it-
almost like it's an attempt, even if it's not towards somebody, it's an attempt to incite fear.
Yeah.
So that way you can,
Yeah.
win. And so either way, wrong. But I do take this empty plastic water bottle, throw it at a wall.
It like went
nowhere close to her.
Like
it
it went-
barely makes a sound because it like I actually was happy that it went forward and didn't just go like and like float to the ground. So I was like, yes, it hit the wall. It made some sound, dude. So anyway, I think after that, I get up and I walk out, right?
Your expressions of anger are actually hilarious. Cause
They
like,
are. They get out of control. So I leave, right?
Yeah.
Do I leave at that point?
yeah, he left. He like after he threw the water bottle. You're right. Like it did. Like to me, I was like, because again, like any sign of this going on, I'm like, okay, listen, I'm gonna step away. So I was like, what? And then you left. You got in the car and left, and we have find
we
my
have
friends.
You can find me on it. So
All
I'm
the
driving, and she's thinking.
Well,
'cause
I
you
see
find me,
him
right?
drive, so I'm like watching him. I'm watching you actively drive to like down the road that I know, like it leads to a bunch of stuff. But I eventually see you get to Walmart and you park, and I assume you go inside Walmart.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you're there for a minute, and I'm like, okay, and I kind of just keep checking in, and I'm like, what's going on? Me and the girls go out and we get something to eat, and I eventually. You turned your location off.
Yes.
That was the thing.
Yeah, that's what made you think that I went somewhere.
That was why we were talking about it earlier.
Because
I
I
was
knew
like,
you were.
something
I
happened.
knew you were watching
Yeah.
me. And I was
At
like,
a
no, I
certain
left
point-
to
yeah.
get away.
At a certain point, you catch on that I'm like watching you, or like probably figure that I am.
I just remembered that we have that.
So he turned. The last thing I saw was that he turns his or I saw him at Walmart last.
Yeah.
And that's where I last saw you. And then when I check back in after I get the girls McDonald's, it's gone. I can no longer.
Yeah.
It's like location service is off, and I
Right.
was like, what?
Where did it go?
And so then I'm like, well, let me just check our account and see what he got at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
And all I see is like $98.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's a lot. That's kind of a lot for just like a single person shopping trip to Walmart.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? And I thought I could have sworn that like you got enough camping gear to drive to the woods and like you were gonna sleep in the forest that night, because you would never go like to your parents' house.
No, I would.
You would have
definitely
never
go to the
gone
forest.
to like your brother's house. You would have never gone to like
I
anything
don't want to
like
see
that.
anybody during those times. I just forest.
Yeah.
I want to see beavers and raccoons.
Yeah, I figured he just needed to, find
Bears.
Grandmother Willow.
Yeah.
And she would figure it out
help
for you.
me.
Yeah.
She's the only one who could have helped me.
No, so I really, because your location service was off.
Right.
You went to Walmart. I'm pretty sure there was like camping gear that we had been eyeing at Walmart or something, but I don't know. So like in my mind, I was like, he is going to the woods. Like he is off the grid for a couple days.
And then I show up like 15 minutes after
Yeah.
that with printer ink and was it paper too?
And you showed up with like Cinesticks or something as
Yeah.
like your peace offering to
Food
me.
and everything.
Yeah. And you said sorry and
Yeah.
all of that you were.
But I had left. I was very strategic about everything I did. I didn't throw the spit cup because that would have been gross if it would have busted. I threw the empty one. I made sure it wasn't towards you. I threw it that way. And then also, I'm like, I'm not just going to go get in the car and drive around. That's a waste of gas. I need printer ink. I'm going to go to Walmart and get some printer ink.
So he got printer ink. That's what
Yep.
he did after
Printer
having
ink.
a blowout fight with his wife. He went in. So you were just walking around Walmart like, howdy.
Yeah, I was smiling
How's
at people.
everyone doing?
Hey, this is my printer. What ink is the best for this?
This is the correct
Is
printer
this the
ink?
right? Is this the X257? That's what I need. That's what I need right there. Thank you, man. You having a good day? I'm having a good day. All right, let's go. All right, bye.
So yes, he did show up 15 minutes later, and I was like, "What were you doing?" So
Printer
those
ink.
are
I showed you.
Yeah.
I need a printer ink.
conflict
Those are
confessions.
conflict confessions.
And hopefully, anybody else listening to this just realizes. I'm sure everybody's got like a crazy thing.
Yeah,
Maybe.
something
I
wild.
hope. I hope.
There's no
everyone
way
has.
ours are the worst crazy.
No.
Or people might listen to it and be like, "That's not even crazy."
That's not
dude."
even funny.
Yeah, it's not
That's
even
fine.
funny. It's all right. It was funny to us. It makes
Yeah.
us laugh.
Well, yeah.
It's because they're toxic, bro. Brought it back around. All right. All right.
Second half of the show.
Second half.
this is where we would put a sponsor in if we had one.
If y'all want to sponsor us,
So,
Colorado Kool-Aid, you can sponsor us.
all right. So we're gonna do a segment called TikToks,
Make it roll across
but
our
like
face and then come out of my mouth. Oh.
Yeah, TikTalks.
Yeah, it's clever.
Talks. It was your idea. Yeah.
I'm starting to be like you. Trying to be clever.
You're punny.
Punny.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Okay, so we're gonna do TikTok.
Lowest form of humor.
It's gonna be based off of what we're talking about, but
Yeah.
we're gonna try to find something related to what we're talking about. And everybody's on TikTok,
Right.
and especially you are in the premium level of TikTok if you know who Elise Myers is.
Elise Myers.
She is the queen of TikTok. We all bow down before her, and
I don't know who she is.
I know that's disappointing.
I'm sorry.
You should get on her. But like she is amazing and tells like she's the greatest storyteller, but also is just like adorable. And so she made this video and we're gonna watch and discuss it. And it has to do with what we're talking about.
It's pretty cool. Let's see.
Listen, nobody is mad at you. Nobody is mad at you. If they are, they'll come to you and tell you. If they don't tell you, they can go to the grave with that one. That's not your problem anymore. That's a them problem. The people that are worth caring about their opinions of you and your life, and if they are mad or not, will care enough to come to you and say, we've got a problem and I want to fix it for us. The people that don't do that, they can go right to... Listen, nobody...
And go right to where? Tell us where.
We
Elise.
love Elise Myers. She's the best.
It was good.
Okay, so what are your thoughts?
First point. I agree with it.
Seeing that.
There are nuances that
Yeah.
I personally would flesh out a little bit more if
Okay.
it was like talking
But she's
to
doing
someone
like
who
a
was trying to help.
30-second.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah.
But I agree with it.
Yeah. And I think like the first kind of point that she makes is that like nobody's mad at you, and if they are, they'll come to you and tell you.
Yeah.
This is something that can like relieve a lot of anxiety between
Right.
married couples is if y'all can trust each other to like not let things fester.
Yeah.
And not even just married couple. I think
For sure.
Relationships
she's
ever.
talking about anything.
yeah, she
any
is. Mm-hmm.
relationship, and it definitely applies to any relationship. If we're if we're having a relationship, like why not strive for something deeper than just I know your name and we say hi to each other.
Yeah, I think like remember in the last like segments when we were talking about like conflict isn't bad, like think about the people that you have like a relationship with, but it's kind of like distant,
Right.
Like I have people who are like friends, but like
Yeah, I think the term friend has been diluted.
sure. Yeah.
But-
probably the people that you have the weakest relationships with are the people that you have like no conflict with.
Yeah.
Because you don't care.
Before it turns into like an enemy.
Yeah. Before it
Then
turns
at
in,
that
you're
point.
just like, you're fine. You're
Yeah.
like, that's a person.
Right.
And we interact.
Yeah.
They
I know
may
their
even
name.
be fun and like
Right.
you choose to hang out with them. But like as far as conflict, like there is none because you kind of just don't care.
Yeah.
You feel very apathetic, indifferent towards that person.
Yeah.
So like bringing up conflict or taking the time to like
Hash things out.
Hash
and
things
work
out.
on yourself and work
Yeah.
on them is meaningless to both parties.
right, you're just kind of like, nah, that's fine.
Right. So it does stay just very shallow, and shallow is fine too. Honestly, I prefer shallow. I like it. It's very easy. Just, hey, how's it going? I know your name. You know my name. Cool. All right, bye.
And I like how she says, like, kind of to the same point of, like, if they care, they will come to you and talk to you about it. And this
Right.
is, I don't know if I said this in the earlier segment, but, like, this is something that I feel very passionate. I've had to explain it to several people in my life.
Right.
Like, I am coming to you because I love you.
Yeah.
Like, it is not out of a place of, like, I am trying to attack you. I am
Right.
trying to make you feel like you did something terribly wrong. I am trying to like beat you up. I'm trying to no.
Yeah.
It is
Which
simply,
is how I always took it, even married,
Yes.
is like you're just trying to pick everything apart that I do wrong. And doesn't matter what it is, you'll find something that I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what led to most of it and the conflict, like the bad conflict part of it was that mentality of if you're confronting me and we're in conflict, it's because you just don't like what I'm doing. So what's the point? Like, why are we doing this? You just don't like what I'm doing. And that's what has changed.
That's what's so opposite for me, is that, like, no, it's
that's
that.
what you've showed me over these years, is it is truly a place that is like she's saying, and like you're saying, if we're not at least in conflict sometimes, we're not getting closer. We're not roughing out or smoothing out those edges and making ourselves better. We're just complacent with each other.
And I think a good thing to clarify too is that, like I think of like Parks and Rec. Remember when Donna is like, she doesn't like the one guy that, like, he's like a teacher or something. He's Peel, right? Is that?
Yeah.
I don't remember. No, I don't remember.
Yeah,
anyways, but she doesn't
amazing.
like him because he's so nice and perfect in every way that she's like, I don't like him because, like, he just does everything right. And so Ron Swanson has to be like, don't mistake love for drama.
Right.
You know, like, or drama for love. Whatever.
Yeah.
You
Either
get it.
way.
Yeah.
Which is a good point to bring
It's a
up.
great
That,
point.
like, it's not find things wrong or feel like if you are good with each other that you're not really good with each other. It's just, it's more so the mentality, I think, for the person who is against conflict or adverse to it. That might not be the word, but like, you're like, no, I don't want, I don't like it.
Yeah, who steer away from conflict and almost
that,
like
this
people
is for
please.
you. Yeah.
And like peace keep.
Yeah, don't be afraid of
Yeah.
of conflict. Don't be afraid of confrontation. It can be something to run to, and if you have something that you think will better the relationship, and that might be the difference between just drama and actual conflict.
Oh, that's
is
good.
that if it's just drama, it's not really going to grow you. It's not really going to help you guys become better together. It might only work for one of you.
Yeah.
And it might only benefit your liking and your selfishness. And I think conflict that's beneficial is something that truly does help both parties become better people.
Right.
And work on being better in sync with each other, not just, I don't like that. What do you wear?
And I liked that
Nonsense.
what you told me earlier, kind of when we were going over it, is that, like, you're like, when you are confronting somebody, though, like, do you really have something, like, or is it really something that will grow both of you, or
Yeah.
is it just kind of
And that was
selfish?
the second point on what she was talking about. She ends it by saying they're doing it to, like, they'll bring it to you because they're trying to make it better, or like you bring it to them because you're trying to work on both of you. That's important. That can't be.
She says, like, I care about you enough
Yeah.
to work on this and, like, make us better.
Right.
And
And
I
that
love that.
and that needs to be the case.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only thing that I'm kind of like, that is good. It sounds, it's one of those things that sounds like a good statement but isn't.
Are you actually
fleshed out.
practicing it, though?
Yeah.
Right.
And you brought it up well with the no, not being just about drama is
Yeah.
like that's the only thing.
So we just want to be clear that, like, that doesn't mean that, like if you're in a marriage or in a relationship where y'all are just constantly fighting and, like, constantly, like, having these like knockdown, drag out, blow ups, and, like, no.
To a degree, you got to understand that you're just not meant for each other.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
But I think in marriage, that's where, like, for me, so I don't know. I guess let's separate it a little bit and walk through the steps of how life tends to work out for people. First, you're in relationship with family is our first step, right? So how would this look in relationship with family?
Yeah. So I think that in family, that should be where you feel the safest to address things, you know, and just be like, okay, like, I mean, these people know you better than anybody in the
Do you think
world.
more so the confrontation in family shouldn't turn into conflict? Or it should maybe be less?
I don't know. I think that would be ideal, but I don't think it's terrible, you
it's
know.
not, yeah.
I think,
I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think, like, even in, you know, in my life, I've seen, like, family members that I've gone to that I've been like, okay, this is my problem, you know, and it's like, often kind of brushed over.
Yeah.
And then, like, to me, I'm like, okay, why do we do this?
Right.
Because, like, I'm trying to tell you something that's literally, like, I want you to know because I love you so much.
Yeah.
But, like, if you don't want to, like, grow this relationship, even though you're my family, like,
Right.
we can just...
Is that
I'm
more so for
like,
older, though, like when
Yeah.
you're out of the house? So
okay, were you asking about, like...
more so from, like, I guess, parents to kids of any age, up until 18.
Oh.
Because up until 18, it, like, you don't really have a choice. You have to deal with this person. And once you're 18, you know, that party can be like, all right, this has sucked, and I'm out. And Or it's been great, and I'm still out because I'm going to go live my own life either way.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Well, I
up
think
until then,
family relationships are a great place to practice confronting correctly and receiving and just being extra understanding,
Right.
you know. But I think that's often probably the place, like sibling fights and, you know.
I agree. I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think it can be without maybe is the difference. I don't think confrontation can always be guaranteed to be without conflict, but I think from like a parent to a kid, we should really be working on making sure when we're confronted with what we're doing against them, we should try our best to have it go without conflict.
Yeah.
And not to spare them from conflict, but to be an example of this is how you receive your shortcomings, and this is how you receive somebody saying you're not doing this well. And that way we can be an example of how a future spouse could be, or even just if they don't get married and have no relationship like that, just how they should be to people too, and be those kind of people who are open to, I'm a flawed, I'm a effed up person. Like, I get that. How am I not being beneficial and helping you enjoy your life and all that stuff?
What do you think about, like, friendships? Like, how does that work in friendship relationships? You know, relationships that we don't have to have, but obviously everybody wants some friends.
And I think we go there eventually within family, other than obviously husband and wife, but siblings, parents and kids, eventually you are deciding whether or not you are friends.
Yeah,
and so
that's true.
We've already kind of touched on how it would work in friendships a little bit, but I think it's just that same thing. Like, you can you can have a great relationship without conflict, and it can be a good one that has some benefits and has all this stuff, but it's very shallow. And so your benefits are shallow. Your growth in it is very shallow. It doesn't have a lot of depth to it until conflict and confrontation start coming into it, because then you're actually working on how you treat this person and how this person treats you, and you're dealing with more depth, so then you get a greater reward from those relationships.
Right, and we've had conflict with friends of, like, just really, like, somebody feels mistreated or somebody feels misunderstood or whatever the case is, and so we've, like...
It hasn't always been dramatic either. Like,
no, I feel very often it hasn't been dramatic.
A lot of the time, it'll be something, like, we'll all be hanging out with our friend group, and people will be disagreeing on things, you know, and it's
passionately.
Not... yeah, and it's not just like, oh, no, like, I see how you feel that, but I feel differently. It'll be like... no, dude, like, that is ridiculous. That's not at all how it works. And, like, you know, we're going back and forth, and we'll end those kind of conversations. We'll be like, yeah, I just don't see it that way. Like, it'll be one of those things, or it'll be like, oh, dang, maybe you're right. And then we end up still wanting to hang out with each other. And the next time we hang out with each other, we're talking about deeper things and more important things, and we just have a really good time. And I think a lot
of that comes from feeling resolved and feeling like you really got to say what you wanted to say, and they feel like they said what they wanted to say.
And whether or not you agreed on it, it's kind of...
Sure.
That's life. We don't always agree on everything, but we both got to express ourselves. Right. Or all groups got to say exactly what they wanted.
You know what I want to touch on, you know, a little bit kind of before we stop, and I know that this has kind of been long-winded because there's a lot to cover with this whole conflict topic. I feel like it could, you know, be covered in more episodes as we go, but
for sure.
This episode we kind of wanted and are trying to focus on, like, if you're a person who veers away from conflict and confrontation, like, why you shouldn't do that. Like we said at the beginning, like, this was your place of growth in our marriage, you know?
Yeah.
But kind of what we were talking about just a couple days ago was that honestly, what it seems like is that when people have this like deep fear and aversion to conflict,
Yeah.
I think it kind of boils down to like a self-idolization
Sure.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Of,
I think
like,
eventually, right?
it can get unhealthy.
Straight away. It's
Yeah.
not as soon as you are averse to
Mm-hmm.
conflict that you idolize yourself, but it can definitely get out of hand.
And maybe you don't idolize yourself, but you idolize this idea of what you're calling peace.
Yeah.
But
Would you at
peace-
least say it's like a slippery slope for sure?
It's a
right?
slippery slope. Yeah, I don't want it to sound like super harsh right away,
Right.
but you can start to go down that path of
Yeah.
like, and I just posed the question like, what's wrong? Like, what's
Yeah.
wrong if everybody's not in your perception of peace
Right.
for a minute?
Yeah.
What would be wrong with that?
What's the worst case
You
scenario?
know, and yes, like of course the Bible talks about, you know, like as much as I always get this wrong,
Yeah.
because I don't care about it. No, I'm just kidding.
What
I'm
does it
just
matter?
kidding. But like as far as what is it? Help me.
I don't know it exactly, but it's essentially like as
As much
best
as you can,
stay in peace with your brother, and
right?
you know,
Be in peace.
yeah.
And so like there is that, but like
But
that
there's also a reason why it started off with the initial
as much as you can,
or whatever wording it is. It's
yeah.
a phrasing like that of
Right.
not saying no matter what, make sure you stay in
Yeah.
peace. It's
Do
saying, like-
everything you can to be in peace.
yeah, and it's saying like do what you can.
Yeah.
It might not. It's not going to always stay. Like don't do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what it is to stay in peace. It's saying as much as you can, and it's because if peace is all you're seeking, then you're no longer seeking truth.
Yeah.
And to a certain
Oh,
degree,
that's a
you
good-
start
wait,
ignoring
say it
truth.
again.
If all
Say it
you're
again.
seeking, dude,
Say it
if
again.
all you're seeking is peace, at a certain point, you will no longer be seeking truth.
Wow.
And that
Wrap it up.
That's rough.
We should have started with that.
We could
Where
have been
did you
done
pull
an
that
hour
from?
ago. How long have we been going? Oh,
That
it
was
just came to
great.
me.
Yeah, that
it
was
didn't
great.
just came to me. It was, I'm sure someone else has said it. And I've
That was
heard it somewhere.
great. But no, I
good.
agree because it's like if you are just seeking this like perception of peace,
Yeah.
everybody gets along, nobody has a problem with anybody. And nope, we're fine.
Right.
Everybody's fine. Everybody calm down. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
That's not truth.
Right.
That can't be truth.
Yeah.
If you're in a deep relationship, you probably have a problem with that person
Right.
at some point or another. So to think that is just foolish
Yeah.
and what you said, not truthful.
Yeah.
And you're not really keeping peace. You're keeping this like kind of fake persona
Yeah.
of like, no, everyone gets along and we're perfectly
Right.
fine, you know?
And that's where like the idolization of something starts to happen. You're trying to create this false
Yeah.
being of, oh no, we get along, like we're great together, we never argue, or when we do argue it's very quick and we're still very happy, and it's what's that term that's been thrown around so much, the dang it, dude,
I always have to think of a term for you in these
you
things.
do, it's not an episode of our 2 episodes if you haven't, heated debate or something like that.
Oh,
Like,
someone
it
called
softens the
heated fellowship.
heated fellowship.
God,
Yeah,
that
I
was
get
so
the idea
annoying.
of it. Like, the premise is like, let's not call this what it is, honestly. But like, I get the idea. But it just feels like that. Like you're fabricating this thing of it's not. Like you're fighting.
Yeah, you're fighting. You're arguing.
Conflict is fighting. Those are interchangeable words, I'm pretty sure. And like the definition of conflict said, it's 2 groups that have opposing opinions.
Right.
And so when you're in heated fellowship, if it's you have an opinion and your wife or husband has an opinion, you're in conflict.
Yeah.
That is a fight. To call it something else to make it sound
Yeah.
sweeter is inaccurate. And I
Right.
get that it's goofy
It's just
and
like
it's
a
funny, or whatever.
like. But if you've ever said heated fellowship, we don't like you.
That's intense. There could be so
I'm
many
just kidding.
people we like that have
No,
said
I'm
it.
just kidding. But
It is it to us it does just feel like we're ignoring what it really is and creating this, trying to make ourselves sound better. And like we've said on this episode, we go at it. When we go at it,
Yeah.
we go at it hard, and it's not great. And it's gone a couple days sometimes, and we'll think we're good, and wasn't really settled, and so it'll go longer because
Yeah.
one of us is still harboring resentment, and like it gets bad, and there's tears usually only on her side, never on my side. I'm a man, dude. But like it's rough, and it's not just a heated fellowship, it's a fight. It's other than physical,
Right.
essentially with our words and emotions, we're on the floor. We're
Yeah.
getting dirty, and it's messy. But that's what it is. So like don't make something up. And whether it's your terminology of what you're doing, or
Yeah.
you're saying with the people who try to avoid it, like myself, who try to avoid conflict, I'm not trying to seek truth. I'm not trying to seek resolution or anything great. I'm only trying to seek my own personal happiness and my own idea of what I want myself to look like, or what I want us to look like, or this image of perfection that I want the girls to see. And that, again, it starts to create this idol of something that is not real.
It may not be like an idolization of self, or at least like an idolization
Not
of,
always, but I think it
like,
can turn to
it's-
it.
It can be an idolization of something
Yeah.
that you're holding on to. And I think it's just like, it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, as we know, if you are idolizing anything
Right.
like that, like,
Yeah.
no, get out
And
of that.
it's selfish to think that you do, maybe not selfish, prideful for sure, to think that you don't do anything wrong, so you're trying to avoid confrontation. And it's selfish to not let the other person know, to a degree, it would be selfish to not let them know that, hey, this rubs me the wrong way, only because you want to avoid something that makes you uncomfortable. And sometimes you have to get uncomfortable to make things work well.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So, today me and Daddy talked about conflict. Remember we told you what conflict was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if sis does something to make you mad, like, what do you do usually?
I usually say, please stop.
But, like, what if she did something that, like, hurt your feelings and then you didn't talk about it till, like, later?
If it hurt my feelings, like, right away, I would tell her, you hurt my feelings, and we might talk about this a little bit later.
Oh, like, right away you tell her that?
Yeah.
Do you guys usually talk about it a little bit later?
No, not usually.
Oh, no, you never get back to it? Why is that? Is it because you're scared, or is it because you're just like, you forget?
I think it's both, because I forget, then I remember, but then I'm too scared.
You're too scared to bring it up?
Yeah.
Why do you think you're scared to bring it up?
Because she might be mad at me that I bring it up again.
Is fighting always bad, or can fighting also be good?
Fighting can also be good.
Oh, why?
Because you could learn a lesson, maybe.
Like you can learn more about the other person?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite sea creature?
Electric eagle?
Electric eel.
Yeah.
Moose, how are you doing
Hi.
today?
Good.
You doing good? Have you had a good week?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. So, me and Mommy are talking about conflict. Do you know what conflict is?
Yeah.
What is it?
It means that you're fighting.
Yeah. Is conflict good or is conflict bad?
Bad.
Conflict is bad. It can never be good.
Well, it can be.
It can be. How is conflict bad?
Because you're fighting with someone.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, maybe. But why is fighting with someone not good?
Because it can hurt their feelings.
It can. Is there a way that we should bring hurts, something that someone's done to hurt us? Is there a way you think we should bring that up to them?
I would go up to them and, like, right after they said that thing, I would say, I don't really like you saying that, so I'll give you some time and I'll go play with someone else or do something else right now.
Yeah. You think it's a good idea to say it sooner instead of waiting? Yeah. Why? Why do you think it's better to say it right away?
Because they may forget what they said. Because it's words, and I don't really remember words a lot.
It's hard to remember. That's good. What is your favorite sea creature?
I like the orcas.
Nice.
And I also like dolphins.
Dolphin.
What
Hello, Rue.
Daddy.
How are you?
Good.
You're good? What did you do today?
Well, I'm also been nice to him, Cocker.
You have also been nice to them? I definitely hear you deal with conflict a lot. You are very loud with your conflict. Do you think you should tell sissies when they've done something to hurt you?
I'm afraid to be kind to people.
Rue, what do you do when sissies make you mad? You may need to re-ask.
I make a young face.
Show us a long face. Do you yell at your sister sometimes?
Sometimes just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Do you think it's good that you yell at your sisters?
No.
No. Is it hard to not yell at them?
Yes.
Yes. Why is it so hard to not yell at them?
Because,
What is your favorite sea creature?
mermaid.
A mermaid like Mommy?
You've been listening to the Matt and Rose Show. Bye. Bye.